Hi, folks, and welcome to Inside the Leader's Mind, where what's in the way becomes the way. I'm your host, David Suson. I'm so excited that you are joining me, but even more excited, not more excited, but I am excited to have my guest with me today, Logan Cuvo. He's the CEO of DamTape. One of the reasons I wanted to have him on today is because he's in an age where people are still trying to figure out who they are. And he has already had to reinvent himself, which is crazy. You're going to hear about the story. He was chasing hockey hard, and not just recreationally, not just casually, but like competitively. Like, where is this going to take me to the next level? And the real kind of hockey, right? And the kind that becomes your identity, your structure, your future, your family's investment, and the story you tell yourself about who you're going to be. That is your whole identity. And then it started to fall apart. And what I found interesting is what happened next. Not just that he started a company while still in college, because a lot of people start companies, but what interested me was what he learned going through the disappointment, the burnout, the self-doubt, the pressure, and the realization that the future he thought he was building was probably not going to be the future after all. And that's tough for any of us that face those kind of challenges, right? We have this vision. Like I thought I was going to be an engineer until he took a left turn, right? So I think there's really something in that for all of us. And because it's easy to look at someone younger and think, oh, what can I really learn from him? But sometimes people who go through hard transitions early, especially, they learn things about identity, resilience, and mindset that a lot of older, more experienced leaders still wrestle with. So I wanted to get inside Logan's story, not just the business, but really the person. So please welcome to Inside the Leader's Mind, Logan Cuvo.
David, what an amazing intro. I've never been introed like that on any podcast, so I thank you. I am so excited. This is going to be so much fun.
I'm so glad to have you. So let's just start here. For people listening, they've never heard of DamTape. Let's just start there. What is it?
Yeah. Well, DamTape is a hockey/sports tape company committed and focused on providing the highest quality sports tapes to athletes around the world. That's kind of our little tagline that we like to go with. But it started out as an ice hockey company. Like you said, really trying to find myself more than anything, but then created an amazing product that kids and players and families love now to this day. We're used so we predominantly are in ice hockey to start. We're making the expansion right now, but we're used in the NHL by a bunch of different teams all over the NCAA. And I've been building this while being a full-time college student and completely bootstrapped. So it's been a crazy, crazy journey, but I'm just so blessed to be here today.
It's just crazy. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but tell me a little bit more. I don't want to go deep into that, but just for context, because people that don't play hockey, they're what kind of tape? What is it used for? So what is this tape used for? What's the main purpose?
Yeah, so the product that we came out with first, or one that really kind of set me on this path, was clear tape. So the clear tape is called Sacco. Clear tape, it's what hockey players call it, and it goes around your shin guards, and it's a PVC-based tape that is compared to a polyethylene, what everyone else uses. You can stretch it, you can pull it, you can make it really tight around your legs compared to anything else out there. And that was really the big difference. And we also use cloth tape. If you've ever seen a hockey player, one of the ritualistic things they do before they get on the ice, they're taping up their hockey stick, the bottom of their stick, and taping up the top. Right. So that's the tape that we came out with. And now moving into everything else, the general athletic and medical tape that goes around the wrist, around the ankle, providing for athletes that way too.
Which is crazy. That I know I had asked you this off air, but I was thinking it's tape. Can't they just go buy any tape? Like, why is there even a gap in the market for this, that they need this, or that, NHL teams and NCAA teams, like what's the gap? What was wrong with what was already out there?
Yeah, David, that's just an amazing question. And I'd say, especially even more for athletes, we're such creatures of habit. I still consider myself an athlete, even though I'm a shell of what I used to be. But we're creatures of habit, and they are so used to being dialed in with the same product they've used from 5 years old. And then when they get our product in their hands, they don't even see these problems, like the unseen problem with the tape that they have. And, it's crazy to say, but every team that we've worked with since the start is working with us now on year 3. And it's really just up to the products. And, it also comes in with the brand and bridging that gap. There's been sports tape brands that have been around for a while. I don't want to put any names out there, but don't really have that I won't say Gen Z marketing either, that viral marketing that is really touching these athletes on a, more than just a Super Bowl commercial you see once a year. You're in the field with them, you're really talking to them and understanding what they need more than anything.
So cool. That is so cool. So I do want to transition a little bit. I don't want to get technical on tape here, but the thing that really interested me more, I mean, it's all interesting, is you just graduated college.
Yeah, David.
This week? When did you finish finals?
So I finished finals. I came back from West Virginia University to Columbus, Ohio on Friday. I took my last final on Friday, came back, and I graduated on the 16th.
That's just crazy. Okay, so the business came out of a much bigger personal story. And so take me back. I want to go back kind of to the beginning. How early did hockey become, and we'll move forward, but just start with this. How early did hockey become such a big part of who you are? Like, how early was that? What was the start for you?
David, I don't know if we said this on the pre-recording, but my middle name is actually Cooper, and that's after Cooper Hockey, the gloves, the helmets, and all of that. So I feel like I was born to it. From the second I came out of the womb, I was kind of a hockey player, and that's what my family has done for the past couple generations. And I was on skates by the time I was 2 years old. And, at 2 years old, you're not going to know if your kid's going to play, I won't even say professionally at the Division I level or at the high levels, but really became serious for me at like 6, 7 years old, where I was really starting to train, starting to shoot pucks every day. And then it just started to ramp up and get even more extreme after that.
Gosh. So you start at a young age, you start playing club or recreationally?
Yes. So it's kind of different, like coming up in hockey, you don't usually play for your high school team. That's not really, unless you're in the state of Minnesota, you don't really play for your high school team. You're always playing for an outside club. And, that goes into what we talked about before, hockey, traveling, the money. You're always gone every weekend. You're driving 45 minutes to a practice at 7 o'clock at night and don't get back until 11. And my parents are doing that 3 times a week, pretty much my whole life, until I ended up moving away when I was 15 to, continue to chase that dream at a higher level.
And I'm just curious, at 15, where were you living then? You move away from home at 15?
Yes, David.
Do you bring the sleeping bag? You just sleep under the rafters or something?
So a very common thing as well in ice hockey, there's, the more I talk about it, it's a very different sport than a lot of these normal mainstream ones. A big thing is billeting. And you go and live with another family and learn how to live and grow up in another family dynamic when, I had no idea who I was even at that point. And I'm still, I'm figuring that out every day more and more about who I am. But I think especially as a vulnerable 15-year-old being away from my family, I thought I was ready, but looking back, I definitely wasn't. And I was actually living in my coach's basement and driving with him to practice every day and just going through the grind, and then ended up being drafted into a few junior leagues after that and trying to take advantage of that level.
Some point early on, before you shifted gears, had you thought about college? Had you thought about pro?
David, it was on my vision board from the time I was like 8 years old. It was, if you know what the Hobie Baker is, the Hobie Baker is the best college hockey player in the league, and that's what you get. And I was like, I had a vision board from the time I was like 8 years old, and it was all pinned up there. Boston College, Boston University. I was like, I want to be here. And, it started to semi come to life as I got older and did these things. But then you realize, David, that there's just simply levels to this game along with everything else. Business, life, hockey, football, whatever you're playing, whatever you're doing, there's levels to it.
So at what point did you realize this might not be your future after all?
Yeah, it was kind of the biggest inflection point of my life. I'd faced some adversity throughout that, whether it was family, getting cut from a few different hockey teams. But like you said, having your whole identity just ripped from your soul, like a harsh breakup is how I like to describe it. And I told you before, but athletes die twice: when their sport is finished and when they leave this earth. And I was 18 years old, so still very young in all of this. And I was 18 and, I was living in Boston by myself with a few roommates on my team, and I just wasn't playing. I was filling up water bottles. I was sitting in the stands, and, reasons I still don't know to this day, David. I wish I did. Another thing in hockey is coaches aren't very straightforward. They're not straight shooters with you. They're trying to claw up to the next level just as fast as, all the players are trying to claw up to the next level. So it was not a good situation for myself mentally, for anything. And, I just remember calling my agent, calling my dad, and I was crying. I was very upset. And I was just like, I want to go home. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go home. And actually on that ride home was where I talked to my father, and we kind of smashed our minds together to bring to life Best Damn Tape.
Some point in this process, calling your dad, your parents, did you feel like you were letting them down?
I felt like that
the
was
time, the money.
I felt like that was, the immediate reaction was definitely that, like, oh my goodness, I let everyone down. My coaches who believed in me, the scouts who scouted me, I was drafted. I had rights to, a couple teams in different leagues, and, I was just done. So definitely letting down a bunch of different people was like the first thing on my mind. But then, I realized that I have to take care of myself. And, within Best Damn Tape and what I wanted to do after this, at that point, I didn't really know what it was. At that current point when I'm crying and telling I'm done, I didn't know what it was, but I wanted to do something bigger and better and make my parents happy, make them proud within, still the game that I love. And it feels like I've kind of fulfilled that professional hockey dream with some of the things.
So what was your parents, mom and dad's reaction when you said, I'm done, I can't go on anymore?
It was very interesting. So I'll tell you here. Mom is always the first person to know. Tell mom before you tell dad. And, it was that. And I had come home, and the idea for Best Damn Tape, in my brain, I was like, this is done. And I had come home and played for the local 18U team here and actually got offered to come back and continue to keep playing. And I'll never forget, we were backpacking across Asia with my family, and my father steps away. He used to smoke these little tiny cigars, and he was smoking a little tiny cigar in the smoking room in Vietnam. And I go in there and I just start crying. I just tried to have a conversation and tell him. My mom was like, this is your chance, go do it. And started crying, and he was like, did you kill somebody? I'm like, no, I didn't do that. And he's like, well, what's wrong? You shouldn't be crying. And then, I told him, and he's like, okay, what are you going to do with all the free time? That was the first response that he gave to me with that. And, obviously I've taken a lot of my free time and put it towards Best Damn Tape.
Did you know how soon after that conversation before you knew you were going to go in the direction of tape? I'm just curious.
I think it was
We're talking months, weeks, days.
I think it was kind of automatic, David. Like that trip also to Asia really changed my life. I say it all the time. I did a lot of reflecting when I was over there, spending a lot of time, not necessarily alone, but with the people that I loved. And it was at a very raw point of my life. And I came back and I was like, I'm going full in on this, and kind of never looked back. Ended up going to school and starting to build it in my little 12 by 12 by 12 dorm room.
That's hilarious. That's absolutely amazing. Now, I know when we spoke before, you'd made a comment to me and you said a lot of the difference at the highest levels in sports is mental. And what did hockey teach you about confidence, the mental side of confidence?
David, I think it's, not only hockey, but I think just sports and competitiveness. In sports that you're being competitive in, whether that's chess, whether it's dancing, whether it's football, hockey. I think the athlete mindset just gives you that extra edge, especially if you're an elite athlete. And I don't say that disrespectfully to anyone else. It's a different type of commitment from a very young age. You're, day in and day out, multiple hours a day, skating, working out, training after that. And, being able to translate that and put that into this, just the same amount of work and full speed ahead. It's just worked so perfectly. And everything that I've done and put into, being an athlete has been, the easiest transition into this, because I learned so much. I learned so much about commitment, teamwork, and, we're still a very small team, but all of those things play hand in hand.
That's cool. And I've heard that. I have a gentleman that I work with, and he was a NFL player, and he's transitioned due to injury and super successful. And he said it's the same thing. He goes, I'm used to, when you're in the NFL, right? It's the at a pro level, that commitment and the drive, and you get in that routine, and it's just you apply it somewhere else. And, what do you think it is that enabled you to do that and not let your life, your identity fall apart? Meaning you get into the business, and I could see a lot of people, when one door closes, their career ends, what they thought they were going to do, and they just go, well, that was me. That's all I know. That's who I've been. And instead of being able to do exactly what we're talking about, move off in another direction, instead they fall apart. What do you think was maybe different in you that allowed you to create a new identity and not fall apart?
It's a great question, David, a phenomenal question. And I've always kind of said this, And I became more spiritual over my time, kind of stepping away from the game and really starting to focus in on myself. And I've come to notice that I've been kind of my whole life, I've always been like a chameleon. I've always been able to kind of not necessarily blend into the crowd, but be able to put myself into another person's shoes and understand them and understand what they're going through, and understanding that what I have in my life is such a blessing. And, I'm raised by amazing parents. I have an amazing girlfriend, and there's so many good things that I can, make it even better. And if I just apply this, and, it was really, David, I'm so competitive. I just don't want to lose in any aspect. And, I really just wanted to, and it killed me more than anything that I felt like I lost in hockey. I felt like I lost. I felt like the game had won and it had beat me. But then I come here and I do all of this, and it feels not necessarily easy, but every time I get a sale or do something awesome, it's the same, pump of adrenaline that I got when I hit somebody or I scored a goal or anything like that. So it's all so meshed together. And I also think another big successor was that I was in hockey. I enjoy doing this. I love this. I love the people. I love sports, and I could see myself doing this for the rest of my life.
You're still in that world, which is cool.
Yes.
Did it surprise you, based on what you just said, did it surprise you that you have enjoyed this, I'll call it a climb, that you didn't say that word, but to grow the business? Did it surprise you that you enjoyed it as much as you do?
15-year-old me would say yes. Me now at 20, I think even 18-year-old me would say yes. But now I'd say really, no, it's just so crazy, David, the development of everything, how fast everything has gone. It feels like it's been a lifetime since I just started this, but it's also feel like it's gone by in the blink of an eye. So it is really such a crazy thing. And I try not to, a big thing, especially for young people and young founders, and I'll say this on here is, imposter syndrome is a very real thing. It is. In big rooms with big people. I've had the opportunity to, pitch to some of my childhood heroes in Damon John and Lori Greiner from the Shark Tank. And it's like, you stand there and the bright lights are and sweat's trickling down your face. It's like, my goodness, either you grab it and you go, or you let the lights consume you. And I also say either you can consume the stage or you can let the stage consume you.
I love that. So at what point did you realize that this was more than just a random idea? At what point did you go, oh my gosh, this is happening. This is working. This is like going to happen. I can make money. This is a life. This is a career. This is a really good career. Because I understand you don't have to share, but I know you're doing really well.
Thank you, David.
At what point did that?
I feel like there was a few points for me. Our first NHL team was one, Anaheim being the first one. And when they came on board, it was like Christmas morning. But I got the text and said, send a pallet over. And I said, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And, just another really surreal moment. I think, that step to that next level of like, okay, now it's full-time CEO, no longer even a side hustle project in college was, Walmart. Getting the golden ticket at Walmart was, I called my parents after it happened, and I was like, listen, before that I was taking internships for my first 2 years of college and didn't know if I was going to take it as a side hustle and have a full-time role. And then after Walmart kind of came into effect, along with some other amazing retailers, I called them, and I was of course happy and celebrating, but I was like, this is the time. I'm like, there's no other time than now. I'm like, I have to do this. I'm like, the universe is telling me that I have to do this like right now. And they were like, okay, do it. And then they've been amazing business partners to me, but those are two great moments for me.
That's so cool. Now, the very beginning, was it all, what's the term? Roses, tulips. I don't know what the phrase is. Was it all, I don't know.
Absolutely.
Or was it?
Absolutely not. It was extremely scrappy, and we're still scrappy today. Always trying to claw ahead, and we're going against 500-pound gorillas in our industry, and as much as it's companies that people don't really know about, but they're huge companies. Been around longer than I've been alive, so it's definitely an uphill battle against most of them, and we're getting scrappy every single day. And I think in the beginning stages, with bootstrapping, especially from only a $9,000 investment to buy my first batch of inventory and invest everything back into marketing and growing the business and growing the infrastructure, there were definitely some days, and there's still some days that it's like, my goodness, the stress is weighing on me like the weight of 100 elephants. But I really, the teams that use it, the kids that love the product and the brand are the people that really keep me going in all this. And of course, creating a beautiful life for my.
That's cool, especially at a young age. Now, you got to tell me, you were sharing with me you were, because you graduated, in an entrepreneurship program, correct? And then you said something that I was thinking about this. I was telling my wife about this. You said something like, it's weird when they're in class, they're studying me. Did I hear you?
You did, David. I have nothing but the utmost respect for my university and my peers at the university. I mean, they've changed my life. And I said it in my two recent LinkedIn posts. I was like, West Virginia University has completely changed my life. And yeah, the entrepreneurship chair was, they were doing questions just on entrepreneurship, and we were one of the questions for extra credit on there. And then in classes, I appreciate it, and it's a huge, immense honor to carry, but it's definitely an alienating feeling sometimes. And we talked about that. It's definitely like, my goodness, this is me, and everyone's like, oh, this guy again, and I'm like, but I know it's really not necessarily like that, but it's I kind of have mixed emotions on it, but I of course love all of it, and I'm so grateful for it. But yes, you did hear me correctly.
Does that give additional pressure to perform now? Do you look at that and go, okay, this is what I did, they all know me for this, I cannot fail? Is that crossed your mind?
I don't think it's necessarily they know me for this, I cannot fail. I think by any means it's I cannot fail. That is just the thing that I have ingrained into my brain. I have it mentally branded into there, is I will not fail. I cannot fail is kind of the big thing. But yes, I do think there's external pressures, especially, you have a whole, I'm grateful you have a whole state kind of believing in me, and I wouldn't be able to do it without them. And it's definitely something, but I use it as more fuel to this. They just want to see me do better. And if I needed anything at all, if I needed a financial advisor, if I needed someone to talk to, if I needed a Chipotle burrito, they would be able to, help me out with that. And I think that that's the biggest thing, is being able to do something good for the people who would stick their neck out for me if I needed it.
That's so cool to have that support system. What have you learned at your age? And I hate saying at your age, but seriously, it's crazy. What have you learned at your age that you think a lot of older people still miss, especially in leadership?
Another amazing question, David. I think I try to reflect on my times back as a hockey player. I was surrounded by, that leadership figure at all times with your head coach and your assistant coaches. Kind of the culture in hockey is very much like the military. They're screaming at you, they're drilling you to the ground, and, they're really trying to get through to you in that way by being super, super hard on you no matter what. And it's kind of everyone in hockey. It's really a big thing there. I've kind of taken the exact opposite approach to that. And I know that a lot of, even, of course, there's times where I have to do what I have to do and get upset, or I try not to get upset. I try to literally stay, and my family says it to me all the time. They're like, I don't know how you do it. And it's like, you just don't have any type of emotion other than pretty happy all the time. And I'm like, it's just, I try to separate it. And that's been something, what I'm getting to is I've been able to separate my ego from a lot of my decisions and a lot of my actions. And that's, in hockey, it's every 0.5 seconds, you're making a decision, hitting a person, shooting the puck, and it's all ego based. And I think the biggest thing with me is being able to separate my ego. And I'm not perfect at it. Nobody is, but I'd say everyone across the world, no matter what your age is just take a step back, separate your ego from yourself and your decisions and what you're thinking at that moment, and then be able to make a clear-headed decision.
And you're like an old soul. This is a crux. This is a basis of a lot of the work I do, where I look at why people they know what to do, but they don't do it, right? Either leadership or whatever it is. And so many times what holds them back from change is ego and their identity. And it's that fear of, I have to let go. I have to be different. So that's like an old soul to be able to say what you just said it's remarkable. So that's really cool.
Thank you, David.
That's really cool. So if someone's listening now, Logan, that is maybe in that weird in-between season in their life right now, which you were in a few years ago, where one chapter's ending and they don't know what's next, what would you say to them?
I say it to everyone all the time. And, the people that I've had the honor and pleasure of advising and mentoring, it's like, I'm looking around. I'm actually at my parents' house in Columbus right now. I'm looking around my dad's office, and everything from the walls to the paint to the little trinkets on his desk was made by a person or a team of people that had an idea. And I'd say they had no idea that I was going to turn into this and make millions of dollars. None of us do. None of us have any idea really what we're doing. There's no written blueprint. There's no path to follow. So I'd say just go and follow your heart and follow your gut combined. I don't like to separate the two. I think both very much so have good intentions, two different things, but follow your heart, follow your gut. And I'm sure that if you're doing something with that, it's going to lead you to, happiness. And I'd say happiness can be determined by many different things, but that's the ultimate thing you should strive for.
Now, you may have just answered this in that question, but I want to give you the opportunity, if there's more to add to that what does building this business really prove to you about yourself?
I feel like it's definitely more to that answer. I'd say, more about myself than anything. It's like I do put a lot of external and internal pressure on myself. I mean, I have since a very young age. Always, I just felt like there was just the weight of the world. Always, it's something that happens. But I've learned that in order to be successful, you need to make mistakes. You need to try things. You need to do all of this. Not everything's going to be a home run hit out of the park. But the person who didn't try is definitely a lot farther behind than the person who tried 100 times and failed every time and learned something from it. So I'd say just really pushing myself to make that extra thought before a decision, or kind of the flip side. If I'm overthinking it, then to just do that decision and push through with it.
And how about this, Logan? What do older, more experienced leaders sometimes underestimate about younger people? And I know you don't know for sure, but if you
I don't want to give away all my secrets in these rooms, David. This is extreme knowledge for all of my younger people who are going to be listening to this. It's people really, really, really want to stick their neck out there and help out a young person, especially a young person who has genuine intentions and genuine, everything that I've done. And when I say it, and I say it with full confidence and full honesty, is everything has come genuinely. And the decisions and the words that I've made throughout my time in the company. And if you can really get in those rooms and develop a presence beyond just being, okay, this young kid has developed a brand. If you can get in these rooms and develop trust and a friendship, I'm going to key in on the word friendship, because people across the world want to work with people that they like. And if they don't like you, it's probably not going to be the nicest thing. You may be able to do business because they have to, or they could go to another supplier, especially in my industry. They could just go to someone else. So I'd say really they are a lot of cold-blooded assassins on the older C-suite level, and those older guys. I'd say, don't undermine the power of friendship, as corny as that may sound. I've been able to, meet with people that I would have never even thought in my wildest dreams, and then they're mentors to me now. And it's just because I follow up and ask how their family's doing and ask how their health is doing and doing all of those things. So I'd say, don't undermine the power of friendship when it comes to younger people. And if someone's trying to be genuine and reach out and learn from you, I'd say take it.
Cool. Love that. All right. Last question. What is the question you wish people would ask you, but they don't know to ask you? So very few people ever ask it, but you wish they would, because you would love to be able to share some of this.
Does it have to be, I have two answers. I have two answers that I kind of really wish people would ask me what my favorite films are. I wish I could talk about movies and film with people more. It's always business. It's always tape, and it's always, CPG and e-commerce and website. And, I just wish that someone would ask me, what are your 3 favorite movies? And I would be able to list them off and then probably have a 20-minute conversation after.
Okay. Number 1, what is it? Now you got to tell me.
Interstellar, Christopher Nolan.
That movie.
Amazing.
You got to watch that thing like 5 times, but it's amazing. Okay. Interstellar.
Goodfellas is my number 2. And then my number 3 is actually The Social Network.
That's cool.
Yes.
That's cool. Interesting. Wow. Those are really diverse. I thought you were going to stick to the, Interstellar and then The Martian, kind of sci-fi. That's crazy. What a mix. That's really cool.
I love film, David.
That is so cool. We'll talk more on offline. But if someone wants to learn more, they want to get in touch, they want to learn about you, they want to learn about tape, maybe they need help learning a bit, whatever it is, what is the best way for them to learn more, get in touch, etc.?
Yes, please feel free to email me, Logan@bestdamtape.com, DAM for damn, no N on the damn. Also, website, bestdamtape.com, same thing there. And then all of our social medias, you can find us at Best Damn Tape.
I love it. Well, Logan, I have loved having you. From first time I met you, I love entrepreneurs, the maturity that you have, the growth of your business, the adversity that you're going down one direction and that's your life, and then you have to shift gears and to do what you've done is really remarkable. And I admire you. And I want to thank you for being with me today.
This was an absolute pleasure, David. I've enjoyed our conversations as well. I can't wait to stay in touch, and thank you again.
Absolutely. Well, folks, thank you for listening. Subscribe, please share. And for Inside the Leader's Mind, I'm David Suson, and we'll see you next time. Take care.